Hey, I'm Edward L. Fairley of No Love Incorporated.
I
Well,
am Michelle Larkin of Queens Moves Coaching, and welcome to the Love Lab, where we explore the relationship skills that build strong community. So let's get started. We're going to have a really good conversation this afternoon, today, this evening, whenever you're watching this right now. So I'm going to talk to Eddie a little bit today. Let's see if we can't get some good info out of Mr. Fairley. So, what made you realize people weren't actually being taught how relationships work?
mm, there's numerous things that caused me to realize that people weren't being taught. One was I was actually coaching people with relationships, but I realized that if I'm coaching you on how to get the girl or get the man,
Make it work.
then what happened is they fell in love with me.
Do tell. Sounds
They didn't
interesting
fall in love with
as a
you,
coach.
and I'm not going to be with you forever. So with that, like that was one thing, and the mere fact that my assistance was needed, and I didn't like how heavily my assistance was being leaned on, because again, that implies that I'm an enabler. I'm not teaching you how to fish or survive on your own. And one thing that I've prided myself on as it pertains to being a parent and as it pertains to being a spouse is that I'm intentional about making my children and my spouse as independent of me as possible, not as dependent of me as possible. It's typically reversed when you get to the root of conversing with people in their relationship dynamic. They like feeling needed, but that is the last thing I ever want to be. I feel like if I love you, I can empower you to thrive without me because, as I've always stated, you're either going to lose me through death or divorce. Not saying that I want to leave. That could happen. Something could happen that causes me to leave, or death, which is inevitable, will cause me to leave. So you're still going to have to make it without me. And the last thing I want you to do is hurry up and get another husband because I don't know how I'm going to survive with him gone. So I think if I love you, I should prepare you to understand how much you are loved when I'm gone.
That's kind of talking about a relationship that does work. And so it sounds like when you were unpacking that you realized that people didn't know how to make a relationship work, which is one where you're independent, at least a whole person participating in a relationship based on the questions that they asked, the need for needed being needed, versus being again in a complementary relationship where you're whole and you're not so dependent that you can't function when this person is gone. So it sounds like you had some clues that people really weren't being taught at early ages and early stages of life how to do relationship. So when did you first notice people were repeating the same relationship patterns?
Kind of at the same time, but when I realized that they didn't have a relationship with themselves, which is why they were having poor relationship patterns. They didn't even understand themselves to identify that they were in a pattern that came as a result of their relationship with their self. So when I realized that they didn't even know or like themselves because what they're asking for is contradictory to what it is that they even like based off of their responses. I'll give you a good example. A lot of times I would give or hear from people stating that I wish I had someone that would listen to me,
We've
me
all said that
pay
at
me,
some point.
yeah, pay me attention or what have you. But then when I would put up a mirror and show them what it is that they said, counter to what it is that they were doing, they would get upset. And I'm like, I listened. That's how I know what it is. And now you're upset with me for pointing out what I listened to. So now you have it. You have it in just a a relationship where we're just going back
Like
and forth,
relationship,
communing.
you're mirroring back to them
Exactly.
what
So
they're asking you to uncover.
yeah, so I'm naturally a person who actually is interested in you,
Naturally
not for any
curious.
motive. I'm just interested in you. So I naturally listen. But the frustration that came as a result of me listening and paying attention was like, stop looking at me. It was almost a cry for me to stop paying them attention. It's like, wait a minute. You said you want a person that would pay you attention. Now that I pay you attention and I'm giving you a response or a reflection of you based off of me paying attention, now you want to hide again. So these are evidences that you don't pay attention to, you don't know you don't realize that what you're saying is not necessarily what you want. Because I have evidence of you not wanting what it is that you claim you want or you're looking for. So
So
that
those are
that would
the
be the case.
patterns. The patterns were that people were asking questions when you were giving them the answers. You were actually collecting evidence of the patterns that were
There.
triggering them to even come back and ask you for advice, right? And so as you brought those patterns to their attention, people were getting like review. It's a self revelation, right? Like, wait a
Most
minute,
certainly.
possibly I might be the
Yeah.
challenge, and it might not be
Yeah.
the other person, which is one thing that's a little painful and make you run. And the other thing is, wait a minute, I'm actually being heard, and the pattern is almost robotic. The pattern is almost habitual. But when somebody's curious and they're actually listening to you, you realize that you're stepping outside of the pattern a little bit, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not comfortable anymore because the light's on me right now.
And that's also from collecting that type of data, it helped me to realize that the pattern was they were trying to be aligned with what culture said they should be, as opposed to taking the time to learn themselves so that they could find someone that was appropriate or aligned or would be harmonious with them. So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I
That
apologize.
is the point of this conversation today. Getting to
Yeah.
know yourself. Because at the root
Hmm.
of getting to know yourself is this paradigm that you have created, proven, laid out, and created a simulator for so other people can experience this with or without a coach. And so, as getting to know yourself is rooted in the no love triangle. So, before we get into that a little deeper, I want to ask you one last question. Do you think that most people are entering relationships intentionally or emotionally? And then we'll move into the discussion.
So, both. They're intentionally getting into a relationship to serve an emotional deficit. So they are intentional about finding someone that they think they need, as opposed to being intentional about becoming whole so that they don't need someone, they can just enjoy a partner. So that would be the answer to that. It's not one or the other, it's actually both. And that's actually a trick that we fall prey to a lot, thinking that something is this or that when it could actually be
A
both.
little bit of both. And there's nuance to life, and there's nuance to relationship, and there's nuance to people. And so that's one of the things, as again, this is the Love Lab, where we not just talk about relationship, but we dissect it. And so I want to talk a little bit about the framework. So we're behind you in the image, and usually when you talk, you frame your conversation in one of the three um, sides of the triangle. So before we get started, could you just unpack for me what this paradigm is of the no love triangle?
So the no love triangle is a guaranteed way to find the right person,
They exist.
to help the when you find the right person, help that person want to marry you, and lastly, to keep the marriage fresh and new so that it doesn't get stale and boring.
Okay, that's
So
three
that's what the
sides.
no love triangle is. The foundation of the triangle is what we would consider dating. But the interesting thing about that is it's more so after dating yourself which is why it underscores that the dating phase is really the self-interest phase. So when you are dating, you should be interviewing the person because you have been a student of yourself long
You,
enough
you know what you
to
want.
know what it is that you want or prefer or actually would live harmoniously with in a partner. And those are morals, principles, and values. So as you spend time with yourself and you really pay attention, as I shared, a lot of people say that they want things because they've heard people say these things. So they parrot a lot. People do a lot of parroting.
Hey, we've all seen the Disney movie. We've all seen the happily ever
Yeah,
after. We were
exactly.
ingrained with, white picket fence, 2.5 kids pick a dog. I don't know, Cinderella, Snow White, the things, right?
Yeah.
To your point, the culture. We have a picture in our head of what happily ever look after
Mhm.
looks like. And I think what you're saying is in that foundation, it's important that we evaluate whether that's true for us,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Do I want to be Snow White?
Yeah.
Or do I want to be me in a healthy, strong, loving relationship, whatever that looks like for me? So I
Most
can
certainly.
relate. Hmm.
So yeah, it's that relationship goal. So they have been taught an idea of what this should be, and they've been told by people who are authoritative, relationship coaches, pastors, their parents, all of these people that they've put on a pedestal. So what they're saying has to be accurate, or because they had a quote unquote successful marriage, because there's a certain amount of years or tenure in this particular relationship. So they've assumed that that is a success relationship. So they try to match and conform what their relationship would look like to theirs, when if that is a success relationship, that's more so because those persons have adapted and created their own culture based off of what their preferences are, not based off of what culture said that their preferences should be. So it's imperative that you grow to become a student of yourself, to understand your likes and dislikes, so much so that you come up with a list of what I have deemed non-negotiables that align with morals, principles, and values. They're not physicalities. Physicalities, time could destroy that just itself. A car accident could destroy that. And actually, that's probably the best conceptual thing that
Accident
I could
so
bring up.
harsh.
If I mean, but it's a reality, and we
That's
don't
true.
think about it. So if I have decided to marry this person and they have a car accident that caused them to not look like when we were together, would the depth of them be enough to sustain that relationship? And that's where your morals, principles, and values lie. So, with that being said, you have to become a student of that so that when you start dating, which is the foundational part, which is the self interest part of the triangle,
And we'll go
you
into
are
that
now,
further. What self interest means is not selfish, and we will go back there.
isn't
But to
yeah,
your point, the foundation is the dating and the
most certainly.
self
So
interest
you
component.
will start to date people interviewing those persons indirectly. They should not know what that list is, so that you can determine as to whether you should move on to a relationship with this person from the dating phase. So now that's how you find the right person, because you know who you are. So you know what it is that you like and what your preference is. Now you transition to your the second phase, which is relationship phase, also known as the selflessness phase. Now, selfless means you have now taken the tools that you use to study yourself to now study the person that you have decided to be in a relationship with. Why is this important? Because if I go into a room and I ask a room, hey, who agrees that opposites attract? Everyone's going to raise their hand. Now, the irony in that is when we get into a relationship, for some reason, we conclude that opposites attract, but we expect our opposite to respond to us the same way that we would respond to them. But if you have become a student and you've learned how to understand yourself, and you take that philosophy and you become a student of them, now you are learning how to respond to your opposite, and you provide your opposite with opposite responses that you've learned that they prefer or need, so that they are now validated and they feel seen enough to want to marry you.
And you didn't lose
So
yourself in doing that. So
you
by seeing
know,
someone else and not holding them accountable to respond in the way that you would, right? So it's the hardest lesson to learn is that you're not quote marrying yourself. You're not in relationship with yourself. You are in relationship with another, right?
yes,
And
most certainly.
so and you're not losing yourself when you're holding space for the other to be other. So that
Well,
is
first
a
of all, you're
beautiful
not
thing.
losing yourself if you've chosen a person who aligns with your morals, principles, and values anyway. Let's start there. Now you're just accommodating a person's preferences that allows for their life to be more simpler. I'll give you a case in point that really, really would bring this home. When me and my wife first got married, and I did not realize these truths, when before we got married, when I would get sick and we were living separate, I would get sick. I have a routine. I am self sufficient. I can make my own soup. I can drink my own drink. I will get a certain amount of medicine. I'll take said medicine. I will go into a room. I would add about 2 to 3 layers of clothing, and I will wrap myself
It'll
in
sweat it
heavy
out.
comforters, and I will sweat it out and just allow for myself to get well without any interruptions from anyone else.
Leave me be. Leave me be.
Exactly. I'm fine. So when we got married, my wife, when I would get sick, she would come in the room. She would literally wake me up when I'm trying to get well, ask me, am I okay? And I'm thinking, I was fine until you woke me up. And then she's like, well, do you need some soup? I'm like, no, like, why do you keep, in my mind, I didn't say this out loud. I'm like, why do you keep bothering me? Like, I'm trying to get well. This is my routine. Leave me alone and let me get well. Let me do my thing. I don't like to be bothered. If I need soup, I'll go make some soup. If I need some juice, I'll go get some juice. If it's time for me to make some medicine, take some medicine. I'll go take some medicine because I've timed it. I know that I
I
had
know
this
what I'm
down
doing. I got me.
to a science exactly. So my wife would bother me. And then, we had children. So now she's adding the children to the mix. Go check on your dad. Make sure he's fine because she's at work. I'm homesick. Make sure y'all go. So now I'm like, I'm in a house full of inconsiderate people when I'm sick. So now reverse it. Again, this is my opposite. My wife, who was only giving me a reflection of what she preferred
She was
when
treating you
I
the way
was
she
sick,
wanted to be treated.
which was the opposite, which was treating me the way that she wanted to be treated. And I did not take note of it. What did I do when she was sick? I left her alone because I'm a considerate person.
You're treating
I
her the way
would
you want to be treated.
exactly. I'm treating her the way I don't. So I am not waking her up. I'm like, don't go in there and mess with your mom. She's sick. And what is she thinking? Like
You
my husband is the
so
most
abandoning me right now.
insensitive, inconsiderate person. So we had the same feelings about opposite actions because we were opposite people in our preferences, not male or female, not anything. Our preferences were opposite. So, because of that, if we lived together before we got married, that probably could be a deal breaker. Because in my mind, as I shared, this person and these persons are inconsiderate. They're rude. Like, how do you wake someone else up that was sleeping and ask them, are they okay? I was sleeping. That's when I was okay. You interrupted my rest. So, this is what I mean by you need to take note. And I just kind of gave, if you're really paying attention, the listener, I gave you some secret nuggets because if you pay attention to how someone treats you, they're telling you how they want to be treated. So if you take note of that, but you've done your job in the beginning dating phase, you can say, hey,
This is
I
how
can
I.
tell that that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to show me what you prefer. I will do that for you, but just know that I don't like that. Please do not do that for me. So now you're able to articulate what your preferences are, not in a harmful way, but you also know to be a student of the person the way that you are a student for yourself, so that you can know what their preferences are and you can accommodate them that way. And that's like people are good at dating and move into a relationship, but this is what
That's
will
the
pivot and
selflessness.
make them want to actually marry you. So this like I can get into a relationship, but I can't get him or her over the hump. This is what will get you over the hump because now they're like, you know what? He or she actually sees me, they appreciate me, and they actually accommodate what they even think are their needs because they're not their needs. That's just your preferences. I don't need you to not check on me. I just don't want you to.
Leads to harmonious living, if you ask me. And again,
Exactly.
knowing that in the workplace or just in other relationship in general, being able to know yourself helps you
Mm-mm.
to be able to be more compassionate and empathetic with
Most
other
certainly.
people because you are clear about what you need and you can hear what they need and you can meet in the middle and have that harmonious kind of connection. So that would be the second side of the triangle.
And
So,
flip that to what you just said. Those who can't, they're in relationships getting mad at a person that's not making them happy, not
mm-hmm.
even knowing how to articulate what will make them happy. And they're frustrated because they're expecting someone to give them something that they have yet to figure out yet, or
We'll
even
see.
to sustain it. It's very interesting to watch. So now we've covered. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is why this is a lab because there's so
Yeah,
many
most certainly.
things to turn over and uncover and explore
Yeah.
and understand about relationships. So again, this is the framework where the foundation was selfish or self-centered or
Self
understanding
interest.
yourself,
Self
self-interest.
interest. Yeah.
Side two is selfless, where you understand, you can
Selflessness.
articulate
Mm-hmm.
yourself and you can allow space for the other person to let you know what they need and you can accommodate them without any kind of reservations. And so, what would be side three?
So side three, the last one, which is what will cause a marriage to succeed and stay fresh and new, is for you to consistently evolve. So self evolution. So you have to constantly evolve as a person, not change, but grow into a more complete or more mature, evolved self. And
New over and over again. We are new
exactly.
morning by morning, right? Like we are human, so we are constantly learning. We are constantly growing. We are not the same person we were last year, this year. And you want to bake that into a relationship that this growth does occur, that change does happen, but it's a healthy part of this cycle, correct?
Well, certainly in the, for lack of a better term, the science behind that. And I use that example in my book. The handbook for increasing your relationship IQ is conceptualizing a person's favorite song. Everyone has or has had a favorite song that you absolutely love so much so you know the ad libs, you know the instruments when they're going to come in, when they're going to fade out, you know when they're going to do runs, you know when the crescendo of the song is going to come. You have a favorite part, and you love it so much so that sometimes you have even almost or have been late to work because it came on and you like I gotta feel or enjoy this because of when it came on. And but at the same token, that same song that was your favorite song, was being the operative word, it ultimately stopped being your favorite song and another new song became that favorite song. So the premise behind that is when you introduce yourself to your mate, you are a new favorite song and they're interested in you. Now, the only problem with that is if that song never changes, the ad lib is always the same ad lib, the crescendo is always the same crescendo, the music notes are always the same. You have become something that's predictable and you're now boring. You're no longer interesting. There's nothing to learn from you and gather. And this is why sex starts to get bad. Now let's think about this at one point, and anyone who's had sex, they've had a time where sex was good and then sex, like, it's no longer good. How could that happen? Well, it's because sex was the same way with the same exact person. You knew what he or she was going to do or wasn't going to do if they didn't evolve. And because of that, they became boring. But it was good at one point. So how could the same, again, that's the problem. It's the same exact person. There's nothing new. There's no freshness. There's nothing to learn about. that makes them interesting enough to be attractive still,
The
to where
curiosity is not there. They're not curious
exactly
about
there's
themselves. You're not
mm,
curious about them. And
exactly
that excitement that we get from, your synapse, new synapse. You learn something new, there's new energy there. There's a
yes
new thought. There's a new track. There's
exactly
something new there. And we're wired to want that. So there's not
most certainly.
abnormal to want it. It is a act. It is almost an act of willful lack of engagement to not grow, right? Like that, it is harder not to grow. It is
No.
to grow, and for real though. But I want to get to why the framework and why you did this, right? So this is going to be a reference point for many conversations. So we'll unpack this
Mhm.
many times over. But
Okay.
it is
Yeah.
important to know that when you are helping us and answering questions about relationship, it is coming through this filter of the no love triangle. So, what problem were you trying to solve when you created no love?
Well, definitely the triangle being the essence and what's really subtly intertwined into the simulation. But as I shared earlier, when I was doing the coaching and the counseling, I became the person that the other person was falling for. So they took on my identity, not my philosophies, because they're asking, what should I say? What should I do? And I'm telling them what to do, as opposed to giving them the tools to understand how to be for themselves to where it would yield them the fruit of their being. So I started coaching and counseling, but with that, and I was being successful even after I realized that. But at the same token, there were four hurdles that I had to jump through in order to be an effective counselor. And the first hurdle was people don't want to tell you their business. Like, this is a very difficult
Their personal business, not about
establishment.
the areas where they're weak or uncertain or not in control.
No, exactly,
Yeah,
because ego rules.
it
Ego is
does.
ruling. So that means if you come to me, you have to admit that I have a problem. So people don't want to tell you their business. That's one. They would prefer for you to assume that they're good and struggle versus asking for help. So people don't want to share their business. Two, if they do tell you their business, they don't tell you everything. So people I knew were not telling me everything. Now, let's analyze this from a physician standpoint. If I am to give you a prescription knowing that you've omitted some things, I could literally be prescribing you something that could kill you. You could have allergies, you could have so many different things. And I thought about that, and that really concerned me that I could be giving prescriptions because I know these people are not telling me everything. So I could give them a prescription knowing that they omitted something that could drastically change what my prescription is. And I could literally be killing marriages by trying to help people that I know are omitting things. So that is something that really caused me to say, hey, I got to pause on this. The third hurdle was the opposite sex of the actual counselor subconsciously believes that they're going to be biased towards the same sex. So if they are the first person that has the opportunity for correction, it only affirms there's something biased.
They're
I knew
against
he was
me.
going
I
to take
came
your
here and I knew
side.
you were going to
He's
take
a
their side,
man.
and I knew it
I
wasn't going to
knew
be about me. You weren't
she's
going
a
to be
woman. I knew
fair.
she was going to take her side. Exactly. So it only affirms the bias, and that's when they really shut down. I don't want to play anymore, which makes the fourth, the fourth, the fact that people they don't like feedback. I don't, I don't
They
like
don't want honest
the
feedback.
the first person that
They want an
says or
echo
has
chamber.
opportunity for correction, they feel double teamed. So now they're like, no, both of y'all are teaming up on me, and I don't want to play. So they will quit. So those are the four hurdles. So I was like, man, how can I counter these hurdles? Because these are really what's preventing me from being the best that I can be. So what I did was I took 2 years off, and I took all of the counsel that I had and all of the information, and I created a simulation that allowed for them to succeed and fail at relationships real time through the simulation, and they can still get the counsel because the counsel is embedded inside of the cars and the landing spaces and experience, so that they don't have to admit that they have a problem, nor do I have to ask them what their issue is anymore. They'll play the simulation, and when that card or landing space says something that makes them feel uncomfortable, that's them saying that they have a problem, not me. So you can't blame me and say that I was being biased because I didn't even know that was your issue because I don't ask anymore. And you can discreetly get the counsel without confessing that that was your issue, because it tells you exactly how, what the root of that issue is, and how to pull it from the root and how to resolve that actual issue. So I've created a discreet way for people to learn and get information and counseling in a manner that looks like a game, without them having to really say, I need help. They're just saying, I'm playing a game. But what they're really doing is getting effective counseling and addressing the things that they would not. I literally had people that, when they left, I said, now, I know we had our session before I created the simulation, but if you all take care of the thing that y'all decided y'all aren't going to share with me, that's the real problem, because I knew they were omitting things. So I was like, if you take care of that thing that you said, hey,
No, we're
everything
not talking
is
about
good,
that.
but this is off limits. We're not talking about that. That would actually resolve the actual issues that you all are having in your marriage. So now what I did was I put it in a simulation so that they can get it indirectly. We know, we've seen people playing video games. They get upset when they miss the pass, or they get upset when they die. In this simulation, they're literally going through divorce. They're getting cheated on. All of those things, those emotions, they come up, and it also causes you to see the mirror, reflect, and gives you the manner in which you can take care of it.
I'm gonna unpack that a little more as a clarity
Mm-hmm.
coach, and somebody who really values the ability to rehearse thoughts and feelings, working through that because it works that muscle, so that when you find yourself in that situation, it's not the first time. You've got some emotional, some visceral, some thought triggers that you can use to navigate the situation better. And so the simulator is rehearsal, and it allows you to, again, evaluate your own personal non-negotiable list, which you can edit along the way because it's you and you, right? Or it's in a simulated experience. It's also safe. I think one of the
Mm-hmm.
taglines that you use is that, like, it's like flying a plane,
Mm-hmm.
safely, learning how to fly without
Exactly.
crashing and hurting anybody,
Exactly.
and leaving a wake of broken hearts in your path,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trying to find
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You can do
Yeah.
that in this environment. And so this podcast is really about giving space for that if you haven't got the simulator, and a way to get the simulator if you want to get it. But at the root of this, what you and I have been doing this a long time, and bookends of the same kind of situation. But we early on, you had said something to me that has stuck with me, and I think that it's valuable for this community, which is you really are really targeting and really kind of get to the root of what makes a strong community is a strong family. And what makes a strong family is a solid relationship. And what makes a solid relationship is a solid person who knows themselves.
Visual.
So at the root of
Exactly.
this conversation, and will always be at the root of this conversation, is getting to developing the relationship skills that make you strong as an individual,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
you can be
Mm-hmm.
strong in a relationship, so you can build strong community, which actually impacts the world around us. Would you agree?
Most certainly. So yeah. So it all starts with you. So to have a better two, you have to have a better you. So if I assist in you loving yourself, you're going to choose a loving relationship. It's inevitable, because even when you get to a place where you actually like being by yourself and loving yourself, you're not going to allow someone to add chaos to that peace and harmony that you have with yourself. You will be very, very selective in your choosing. Also, to conclude the actual triangle, now I'll come back to this thought. If you self-evolve, that means you have become a new person, so you have to now learn yourself again,
Again.
which causes the actual cycle in the triangle to happen repetitively. So you have to learn yourself, love yourself, selflessness. You got to learn your partner, and it's just a process, a cyclical situation within the triangle. So I wanted to make sure I stated that. But yes, first you have to have a loving self, which in turn causes a loving relationship, which in turn causes a loving uh, family, which in turn causes a loving community, city, state, and ultimately country and globe. That is my intent.
That is the
That's my
intent.
intent.
And I think those of us who want to be better are trying to be better so that we can do better, so that we can impact those around us. So let's just now that we understand the framework, suppose there's somebody listening in their car or kind of listening and doing other things. We want them to be able to kind of see and understand and see themselves in this triangle, right? And where they might find themselves. So I want to talk about self-interest a little bit. I think that is triggering. I can say for me personally, as I have grown over time, personally did not really like being selfish. I was a giver by nature. I think I was self-sacrificing. I was giving so much, pouring from an empty cup even, right? Trying to make sure that I was not perceived as being selfish. So you say that
Mm-hmm.
relationships start with self-interest. And most people hear that and think selfishness like I did. So, what do you actually mean? I know I've evolved, and I will share after. But what did you mean at the outlay of this term, self interest?
Well, well, the irony is in what you stated. You were so focused on trying not to look selfish that you were accommodating so many people. And I'll go back to even what you shared. This simulation concept is exactly that. Would you rather learn how to fly a plane in the simulation and crash, or would you learn how to fly a plane in life and crash? And I say that to bring the plane analogy into this conversation. If you are in a plane, they say if the plane is going down and the masks come up, the first thing that you have to do is put on your oxygen. Don't try to help someone else's mask or what have you. Get yourself together is what they're saying, because I can only accommodate you as much as I accommodate myself. So it's imperative for you to love yourself and learn how to love and align yourself with things that align with loving and respecting yourself before you can actually add someone to you. Because if you don't, that person could bring disrespect, they could bring their selfish motives or whatever to you and actually manipulate you into something that you don't need to nor want to be. So it's important for you to take the journey of, for one, understanding what it is that's for you and what it is that you like, so that when you decide that someone has proven that they are worthy, and I'm using these words intentionally, worthy of you being selfless towards them in a relationship, then they've really done their due diligence and they've made it clear that they are the person that deserves the sacrifice. Because to have to think and go counter to what's natural to you to accommodate another person, that's some serious work.
Oh
Because
yeah, it's
as
emotional
I
labor,
shared,
no doubt,
most certainly, as I
no
shared,
doubt.
you're doing these things because they're natural to you. Again, my wife was doing something that she felt and thought was loving. She didn't, and that's what's crazy. We choose these persons, and the first thing we think is that they would do something harmful to us. Like, why would you choose someone that you think loves you, but the first thought that you have in their response to you is that they would do something harmful or hurtful? Well, that lets you know that you've had a past
Some
and a
patterns, if
journey
you will.
that suggested that those were triggers that, even though it looked like this, it might be and it might not be. But you have to get to the root of that through the process of self interest to know and learn these things. So when I say self-interest, I'm saying being a student of self, so that, as I shared earlier, you can articulate, hey, this is my preference. I can tell that this is what you like, but please don't think doing that to me is considered loving. I don't like that. I don't like when you do that with me or to me. And you can say that from a loving place and still accommodate what it is that they prefer or their preference. And that would just show, and that's for all of you. That is a simpler route than to conclude that somebody is categorized as a toucher, uh, a gift giver,
The love
a
languages, if you
words of
will. Yeah.
affirmation, all of that stuff. No, just look at people as individuals and realize that you are an individual and worthy of actually being a student of yourself, and then accommodating yourself in love, and then realizing that you can only love someone as far as you love yourself. That's why you are the most important person conceptually when it comes to that plane and when it comes to this relationship, because I can't love you, I can't forgive you unless I believe that forgiveness can happen, which means I have to forgive myself first, because we only believe what we think is true. So I can't even believe that you'll forgive me until I have forgiven someone. I can't even believe that you will love me unconditionally until I've done that for someone or done it for myself. So the things that you practice on yourself are the things that you can give, but even more importantly, they're also the things that you can receive. So that's why you are so important when it comes to the beginning of this foundation.
I would agree. And having coached people who are hard on themselves,
Mm.
former perfectionists, sensitive to people who are perfectionists and hard on themselves, it's likely, even based on what you're saying, and having I have proved it out in several conversations myself, is that when you are hard on yourself, you are harder
You're
on
hard on other
someone
people.
else.
Oh, most
And
certainly.
right? Because and if it's never enough for you,
I
it's never
know.
enough for them. If you are always striving and you're never reaching, they're never going to reach it either. And you're it's a push pull, but it's really, to your point, it's because I'm seeing you through the eyes of my own lens,
Most
and I'm
certainly.
projecting. Versus, if I can assume good intent, I can give grace, I can have a
Hmm.
forgiving heart if I have that toward myself,
Hmm.
because I've extended myself grace. So I can
Yeah.
give you grace, but I also, if I know myself, I'm not going to allow you to cross boundaries and to disrespect, because I wouldn't disrespect
Hmm.
myself. So I'm only
Exactly.
holding you to the standard
Exactly.
that I'm holding myself to. I
Exactly.
don't do as I
Exactly.
do as
Exactly.
don't be who I am, right? So like
Yeah.
we have to really consider that we are our own litmus test.
Mhm.
And so when you're
Sure.
looking at and you're seeing other people who and they're struggling to be in a relationship with you, the
Hmm.
question
Hmm.
is, are you struggling to be in a relationship with yourself?
You have to yourself.
Have I done this? Yes, I have. Crashed,
Yeah.
burned several times. Understand, my little plane
Yeah.
has been through some things, and she's been rebuilt. So
Yeah.
she's flying good now. But what happens when someone skips the phase? But you kind of told us that. But how does low self-esteem show up in a relationship?
Well, it's for one, is accepting anything. It has, you have nothing to filter whether this is the right person or not, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which, as we discussed, patterns. You're choosing that. So remember how I shared earlier how when we got to the last phase of the triangle, how sex got bad. Now the irony in that is people typically fall in the pattern of getting the same person that looks different,
Yep.
right?
Same person, different
So
relationship.
same person, different relationship.
Prototype.
So what you've done, you that's actually the truest evidence of you have picking you've chosen you've picked you've chosen a person that is the same person as the last one. They just look different. You needed a new song. It seemed like a new song. It was
You
just
like
a
the
different
beat though.
CD. It was a different it was a different CD cover, but it was the same song. So what happens? The sex is good at the beginning, and then we get back to that, I can't do this anymore, and you throw it. But you just needed a new song, and they looked different, but they were the same person because you did not do this process right here. And what this process looks like, it's literally asking yourself why questions until you cannot ask why anymore. Why did that trigger me? Why was when he or she saying this, did it make me upset? Why does this make me happy? Can't just do it for the negative stuff because you have to. And this is that's the hardest thing. People will question stuff that makes them feel bad, but they never question stuff that
It
makes them
makes them
feel
feel
good.
good. I
And
agree.
those probably are the things that you should question the most, which is why I
Because if
know
you
we've
want more
done.
good, why are you not excavating and giving that as much value as you do the bad? We
No,
come
certainly.
from the perspective of if I get rid of the bad, only good will be left, right? But from your what you're saying is let's lean into what feels good and know what triggers that so we can get more of that and in more areas because there is some self-awareness in that as well.
Actually, I'm almost saying I'm saying you should question the things that feel good because those may very well be the things that are the bad things.
Oh, you found your
And
what do you call it? Your mask, that thing you can hide behind, that that protective shield.
that too. So for all right, so I'll give a good example. A lot of people that drink or smoke, it's a escape. It
It
makes
feels
them
good in the
feel
moment.
good. Feel good. So based off of your analogy, we will be leaning on the thing that feels good. Now you've made me an alcoholic and you've made me a
You
drug addict.
know.
So 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 what I'm saying is you should question the things that make you feel good because that actually could be contributing
Mhm.
to the things that are yielding you bad fruit. I'll give you a great example. When my daughter was young, she wanted to get braids for a long time. And she was adamant, and I'm like, "No, you're too young, and right now, I can tell that you want braids because it's a self-esteem issue. You think braids will make you look better, which would in turn will make you be better." So for years, so she finally grew to the point where she could articulate why she should get braids in her hair, extensions. Let me clarify, because a braid or whatever based off your own hair will be the issue with that. No, adding things. My issue was adding things to make you feel better is a problem. That was problematic. I would not allow that for my children until I knew that what you added was just an accessory or what have you, just like a shirt. So I was adamant about that. So my daughter, she finally wrote out why, and everything she shared why it was needed, a preference, and it had nothing to do with aesthetics and it making her look better. She talked about the health of her hair and all of that stuff when she shared. And that's when I finally pivoted and let her do it because she finally got to that place where it wasn't something that she felt made her look better. It was something that she felt was an addition. Now I say all that to say prior to that, one day she was really pressing in on it. Well, uh grandma and mom said that, I should be able to get it or whatever. That was her or whatever. I said, you know what? You give me a lot of pushback for my no, but you never give pushback for the yes. Why do you think that they would want you or you need it? You don't ever question someone saying that you need makeup or you need a hair. What is that saying that they feel about you and how they look at you? Because I'm saying you don't need it and you're beautiful. What are they saying when they say you need it? Are they saying that it will make you feel beautiful? Or are they following it with something that says that you're already fine by yourself? Or are they pushing in on this would make you something that they don't feel you are right now? So you should question the yeses or the people that align with you just as much as you question the people that are not aligned with what you are. You might find that this person actually is more for you than the person who is just whatever it is you like.
I think self
Type person.
awareness is a journey, right? Like to your point, you may find that um, what makes me feel good is alcohol. right? And that's taking me, and it's a negative, it bears negative fruit. But in the self reflection, you will see that it's negative fruit. Why am I drawn to negative fruit? And examine that. Similarly, like you could find that, art lights you up on the inside, but not giving space to art in your life is causing you to not feel alive because you're an artist, and you have never really, because the people around you said you shouldn't be an artist, you've never explored it,
Exactly.
but you know that it brings you
Yeah.
joy.
It's not
Why are you
lucrative.
not
You should
doing
get
it?
a job, a corporate a job, and all this stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
most certainly.
again, I have a child who's an artist, and everybody was like, you should get a 9 to 5, and it stunted the art. But I
Hmm.
encourage them to find a way to find an outlet in your life where you
Most
still
certainly.
get it. So it's not always an either or. To your point, it's an excavation, it's a journey, and it is about knowing yourself before you get to know the we. So let's go to the second
Exactly.
side of that triangle and say,
Yeah.
it's shifting from me to us or we. So what does healthy selflessness actually look like? So once someone knows themselves, kind of what changes in this relationship phase?
What change? Elaborate on
So
expound on that.
so
What
once
change?
someone knows themselves and they want to be healthy in a selfless way, what does that look like in a relationship?
Okay. So for one, if you have truly become self-interested, naturally you can't lose that. That will be reflexive. So I need people to understand that you don't lose yourself in being selfless. You actually add a partner to who you are. Now, what that looks like is now you have considered a person's actions. Now you're paying attention to how they respond to certain things, and you're comparing them to how you would do it. Now, oftentimes we do this, but we do it from a negative place. We do it trying to change them to be like us. So, like, what are you doing? This is where we get the concept of common sense. Common sense will tell you to do it this way, or common sense, and then we feel frustrated and disrespected because they didn't do it the way that we wanted to do it, as opposed to being a student and asking them why. Now, that is so important. Remember, I shared that this part, which is the foundation part, is asking why until you can't ask why anymore to help you understand yourself. Now, this is an opportunity for you to actually add to yourself by asking them why. So if you see something that they're doing and it's the opposite of the way that you would do it, you would ask
I'm
why. The
curious.
reason why the why is important is because when you find out the why, for one, it helps you to change your response. Because when you understand the story behind someone, for example, if you were in a relationship and a person touches you a certain way and you kind of tense up and you're like, hey, don't touch me like that. That person, they touched you like that because they felt it was a loving gesture, right? So don't touch me like that. So when you told them that, they did something out of a reflex. It's hard to break a reflex. So just saying don't touch me like that, that's dismissive. They might at first stop and then they'll come back to it. Now, if they touch you like that and you say, "Oh, please don't touch me like that," the last person that touched me like that raped me.
Gives context,
Now we
color,
have
nuance.
context. That is going to root something deep in a person that's doing something reflexive, and it will make it easier for them not to do that to you because they love you and they're compassionate about you. So that why, now that was an example of me sharing someone that said, don't touch me, and then sharing why. But if you start asking why questions, you might get to the root of why they do things that aren't necessarily direct towards you. But they are things that will say, oh, you know what? I never thought about it like that. And you will find that you'll even start adopting
It
things
could be like,
that you
why do you
felt
keep your toothbrush cover on in the bathroom, right? Like, and you're like, I never
exactly,
do that. And they tell you, well, here's because bacteria, da da da. I got
exactly,
sick at some point, I had good. And then you're like, oh,
exactly.
I never even thought about that. And you have made an adjustment, but it's an informed
Most
decision
exactly,
because being
exactly.
curious, because you're being selfless and asking why, not from an agenda, right?
Hmm.
It's not an
Hmm.
agenda of because I want to change you as much as I'm curious about how are you different and how do you think and who are you.
Most certainly.
I could
Most certainly.
actually listen to the answer without being defensive, right? And
Most
without
certainly.
shutting it down.
And it gives you more of an opportunity to now share why you do things the way that you do. Now you two have literally produced intimacy. That is true intimacy. I understand why my husband or my wife does this because we've now shared a story that allowed for me to understand why he or she does this. Now they're speaking on your behalf. They're your advocate and everything, and they're your evangelist. When you're gone, they're telling your children, "Hey, don't do that. Your dad don't like this because or whatever." Now you have people that are helping you to live as you shared harmoniously together. So it's learning and understanding and sharing so that you can accommodate someone whom you just shared that you love.
I think that ultimately, like you said, it leads to intimacy, and you have a shared truth for your relationship. There's a common private knowledge, right? Because some of these
Yeah.
conversations
Yeah.
aren't for the outside world. This is just
Exactly.
between the two of you, and you have an
Well said.
understanding of the other person that other people don't, and that is yours. That is yours, and
Yes.
you create more of that intimacy and history with each other. And
Mm.
so what does intentional growth look like in a long-term relationship? And so I think it's a little bit more of this, right? Which is continuing to ask why over time, because we're humans who have a history of experiences that some we share and some we don't, some we forget. So you could ask why forever. But I don't think
Well
every
said.
relationship wants to literally sit around the dining room table. So why do you look at me that way, or why did you pick up your fork that way, or what? I think there's other ways to do that. Can you give us a little tips on and thoughts about how can we stay curious and keep
So are
growing
we
in a
talking so
relationship?
did we just pivot to the third or are we talking about that in
I
a
think that we're going to
relationship?
use that to pivot because
Yeah.
self evolution
Okay.
is this part, right?
Yeah, self
This
yeah.
is you evolving as a person.
Perfect.
So you
Mm.
want to keep asking more questions because you're asking yourself more questions, I would guess. You're asking yourself more questions as you grow. So you want to keep doing that so the other person doesn't get left behind, if you will.
There's in that evolution stage, it's not necessarily a why question to yourself as much as it is curiosity and a why to things that you deem to be true at one point. Remember how I said at the beginning of this conversation, we have this thing where we think it's this or that, and it could actually be both. Both could be right. It can both, and them being both right could be circumstantial. Oh, if this is here, then this is. If this is, then that. But you did not learn the balance in the truth in which you've adopted. So this is more so for one, being intentional about growth. That could be reading, exposure to things that you typically would not do, trying different things out, be it I mean, you can even maintain things. So if I'm reading, I could always be reading, but it would be something that is more evolved or different or more depth to what it is that I think that I know. Movies, if you're consistent about going to movies or what have you, even though you're going to movies all the time, you can actually be seeing a different movie, which gives a different perspective and look on things. Exposure to more diverse cultures and things of nature to give you a broader perspective as opposed to narrow mindedness, which we oftentimes do, staying in the same place and not allowing for different ideas to attack our minds or philosophies. And also, if your quote unquote truth is truth, why would you be opposed to other philosophies? If anything, you should be able to measure that against your quote unquote truth, and it should not be offensive or a problem at all. So, not to mention that allows for you to, again, understand other people. Growing and evolving is exposure
Mm-hmm.
and even questioning why what you think is true is true. I'm concerned if you think that you should have the same outlook on life that you had as a 10-year-old, 5-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old as an adult. If you can still fit your baby clothes, there's a problem. So even as an adult, there should be an evolved mindset and thought process that you are aspiring to have. You should not be comfortable with being complacent and not growing and being better. You should always be striving to be better, even in your relationship with yourself, as well as in a relationship with your partner. So it's not necessarily wise to self, it's wise to life. It's
Definitely
why
wise
am
to
I
life.
consistent? Yeah, why am I doing this? All is this what that's just like you said. Why did I listen to the people that said I should have a 9 to 5 when I like art? Have there been artists that have succeeded without having a 9 to 5? How did they get there? Why don't I study that? There's a reason why I'm passionate about this. Why can't I make my art a 9 to 5? So, but again, we get ideas and philosophies, and we take counsel from people that aren't even where we want to be or where we aspire to be. It's so interesting that we will get counsel and direction and guidance from people who are nowhere near what we want to become or be, and we will take that as truth and also not even consider that the person who told you not to do it is speaking from their limitation, not yours. And they're doing it from a loving space. This I have to teach in relationships too. You have a spouse that doesn't quote unquote believe in my dreams and whatever. They're actually trying to prevent you from hurting themselves because they know that they could not succeed at doing what it is that you want to do. And when you realize that, you kind of empathize with them, actually feel sorry for them, but you can still keep going and go and do what you got to do. So that's the kind of wise and the outlook of saying, my mom told me I had to do it this way. Did I really have to do it this way? No, actually I don't. And I have evidence that shows me that this is not the way for me. So that's what I mean by evolving. And when you evolve, you become interesting. Like, who is this? Oh, okay.
Interesting is a byproduct of evolution. And I would say, and hook on to what you're
Exactly.
saying, that confidence and courage come based on the evidence from the other two, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
first one being self awareness, the second one being, selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
Success in those areas breeds courage, and it also breeds confidence. And courage and
Mm-hmm.
confidence allows you to lean into the unknown, which is evolving.
Yeah,
Evolving is
yeah.
leaning into something new without fear or without knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, but I will be better off in the long run. In which case, again, to your point, the cycle, right? Because if I've evolved in an area and gotten new information that my spouse hasn't, for example, I say I got a degree, they didn't. And so my brain has expanded and the way that I see the world has expanded, and I don't want to alienate, but because I'm on the third side of the triangle, and I'm now going back to I've self-reflected and like, oh, I talk different. Oh, I show up different. And this may be
Mm-hmm.
making this person kind of respond to me in a different way. The selflessness would be, right? Saying,
Mm-hmm.
how does it, I sense that there's a little difference. Can you help
Mm-hmm.
me understand
Yeah, yeah.
what you
What's that?
see so
What's
that
that?
I can make sure that I'm filtering or giving you what the truth is, because it's
My
possible that
intent.
we're
You're receiving my intent. Yeah,
miscommunication here, right? Because
most
that's
certainly. Yeah,
courage to lean
yeah.
into. I'm a little uncomfortable because things are changing, but because I've
Mm-hmm.
had evidence that I've been through this cycle a couple times, I'm going to lean into maybe I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
that you may be feeling a certain way, and I'm going to ask to see if we can't develop more intimacy as we continue
Well
with the
said.
us.
Well said. Well said.
I'm
Well
growing.
certainly.
I'm
Well said.
telling you, I'm not married, but I be knowing things. Um, and I also apply this principle in my professional life. Um, the more I grow and learn new things in my career, I know that it may make people around me uncomfortable because they may not have grown as quickly. And so I make it an effort to either teach somebody along the way or ask them, what about what I said do you not understand, so I can hone in only on the thing that you don't understand and not over explain and make you feel like I'm talking down to you. Like, let's actually be honest and say, like let me talk to you. I'm like, I don't have anything to lose here.
Well
Which
said.
brings people closer because they realize this is a we. I'm trying to raise everybody. So yes, I'm learning, and I'm aggressive when learning, but I also don't want to leave anyone behind. So I want to maintain that intimacy and connection, and relationship, even though we're growing. We don't all do the same thing or show up the same way.
And that's why my company is called No Love. It's not called No Relationships. And I'm so glad that you said that.
No, meaning K
You
N O W, not N O.
exactly. Yeah, K and yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, when you're this applies to everything. Truth is, so you're dating. When you go to an interview, that is a date. You are seeing if this company is the right company or fit for what it is, be it the salary range that you're looking for, all of those, the type of job that you're looking for. They're doing the same thing to you. Does he or she align with what it is? That's dating. Then you go into a relationship. You check to see. Now you have to accommodate the culture of the company to get your said check or what have you, so that you all can have a harmonious relationship where it works out. If you don't, that's gonna cause you all to break up. And then from that, you start getting married. You start becoming and evolving into a supervisor, manager, or what have you. That is a marriage to said company. Now you are a vested portion of the evolution of said company. And with that, your company has to evolve. If your company does not evolve, it is going to dissolve. It is going to go down. It's going to be
It
broken
will.
down and
If
it's
it doesn't
done. You have
adapt.
to evolve. Exactly. So you have to adapt and evolve in order for the company to remain successful. All of these principles, you have to be an effective communicator. No one sells that you. If you think that the person that's selling the shampoo or selling the phone is putting out why they want you to buy, you're sadly mistaken. They're telling you why you should want to buy. So that means they have to be a student of you, selflessness, selfless enough to consider what you want and present it in a manner in which you want what it is that they have. And you're doing that as a selfless person. You're considering what it is that they want so that you can present them as something that they want, present yourself as something that they will want to have. That's when they decide they want to marry you. So all of these things, I don't see any change in the philosophies in this. You just see dating, like I can align them with anything, class, school, anything. You bring it up and we can go there. Religion, relationship, all of that. It's the
Well,
same.
that's why we want to explore relationships and the skills necessary to build strength in those relationships and build community, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're going to keep having these conversations. We are going to use some of the elements of the simulator as part of the conversation starters. And just for today, as we kind of like bring it to a close, I want to make sure that um, somebody who's listening can kind of see themselves and kind of think through the muscles that we've kind of exercised today. So I want quick answers to these last three questions that will help us kind of reframe or just solidify the things that we discussed so far. So question
Yes,
one,
ma'am.
if someone's listening realizes they've been repeating patterns, where should they start?
With themselves, they're the only consistency in patterns. If you have the same relationship with different persons, you are the only constant. You're the only thing that's the same in the equation. So you are the problem, for lack of a better term.
Spend some time with yourself. Go take a walk. Reflect. Find the common denominator. Question two, what's the biggest relationship mistake people make before they even get married?
Before they get married,
Before they get married. There's a relationship
thinking that
mistake they make before they get married.
thinking that hmm, that marriage is going to fix something that's broken in the relationship, which is another way of saying thinking that their spouse's responsibility is to make them happy.
Broken people break people, hurt people. Heal yourself, get to know yourself so you can be whole in a relationship. Question three, and this is going to bring it home. If someone could leave this episode understanding one thing about love, what would you, Mr. No Love, want it to be?
It starts with you. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. You can't receive love. understand love, and you can't experience love even if you literally are experiencing it. So it's important for you to go on a journey of loving yourself.
And that is today's episode of the Love Lab. We look forward to having you next time. Have a great day.
This is a pleasure. Love y'all. Be safe. Peace.